Hello and welcome, listeners, to the second ever episode of Cinemacabre, WKNC's horror movie review podcast. I am your host for this episode, Mason Baker, aka DJ Crush, joined by.
Hi, I'm Natalya, here known as DJ Roxy at the station. So happy to be back.
Hey everybody, I am Sean, also known as Lead Pipe, also known as Sean.
Is it spelled differently?
No,
The two forms of
no, it's
And-
like it's my stage name.
And as to not bury the lead, as you all are currently watching this episode, you already know what we're going to be talking about. This episode, we are going to be talking about the acclaimed 2014 horror film, The Babadook.
Baba.
Babadook.
Dook.
Dook.
Oh my gosh. This movie was awesome.
I guess we're just gonna go ahead and jump into the.
I mean, I think
our
we can
thoughts.
start with our basic thoughts. I thought this movie was awesome.
I really enjoyed this movie.
Just to be a contrarian, because I did like it,
Yeah.
I hated this movie.
Oh. What'd you hate?
Too good.
Okay.
I like
Um,
trash movies.
Wanted to
No.
be garbage.
I think we can all agree that this was a great movie and definitely deserving of the acclaim it has.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, I kind of touched on this, like, in, like, our first episode, which you should totally go watch.
If you have not already, for some reason.
But the Babadook was, like, even earlier than, like, the elevated horror that we really talk about now. Like, I mentioned, like, Get Out and Hereditary. But that's, like, 3-4 years later than the Babadook. Like,
Mhm.
this one I was hearing about, like, everywhere, like, how good it is and, like, how good it is, like, for a horror movie, which, like, I think it came at a time, like, where we didn't really put value in horror very much, which
Mhm.
I want to change. I think we should value horror so much.
Absolutely.
But, like, it was, like, one of the first ones, and it's, like, so interesting that, like, an international horror movie from Australia
Mhm.
made such an impact
Definitely.
on audiences.
I feel like we can obviously touch on this later in the podcast, but 2014 was kind of the tail end of what I would call the not dark ages, but the boring ages of horror.
Mhm.
It was
Absolutely.
It was a lot of gritty remakes. It was a lot
So
of things that wanted to be The Conjuring. But going into The Babadook, there are definitely a lot of those elements in it, like flickering lights, long shots, but it's so cleverly done that I think it really holds its own against A, those movies, and B, even the things that came after it, kind of ushering in this age of quote unquote elevated horror, which again, I can touch on my beef with that term later,
Yeah.
but it's worth noting for this kind of period that this ushered in.
Yeah. I want to ask you guys, like, how much did you know about the movie, like, going into it?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know a single thing.
Nothing.
I really hadn't heard too much about it, other than it was probably one of the most recent, like, really good Australian horror movies, at least ones that have, like, reached international audiences. Obviously, we're not from Australia, so
Yeah.
maybe they have some, the scene might be crazy down there, but
Who knows?
Their life is horror. All those animals
yeah,
around.
it
Like,
was,
Truly.
that's probably what, springs them to make a really good horror movie is they have to feel anything.
You have to really push it because if your entire life is like that,
this movie's just, like, about, like, one of those, like, really scary poisonous spiders.
It kind of is.
I mean, yeah, it does
Kind
have
of.
all the bugs going on, which we'll definitely get into.
it's something that can definitely
Mason,
poison
do you
your
know
life.
anything about the movie going in?
The only thing that I really knew about it is the reason that we chose this to begin with. October is LGBTQIA plus History Month, and we chose the Babadook solely because of the memes of the Babadook being a queer icon.
He is a queer icon. It's not even a meme.
Yeah. Netflix said it.
Netflix said it
yeah, that
themselves,
is-
and we trust them with anything.
Yeah.
Just in case,
Just with all movies.
just
And
in case
actors.
you, the audience at home, don't know the context of literally anything we just said. Um, in their infinite wisdom, Netflix accidentally put the Babadook under uh, LGBTQ plus movies, which just rocketed it into queer culture because everybody thought that was so funny.
It is. It
The-
is so funny.
The movie has no queer themes
What are you
in
talking
the
about?
slightest.
I thought this movie was really queer, honestly. Like every scene in it.
Queer in the strange sense, but we do want to get started, even though we are several minutes into the podcast.
The movie starts, and I think like the first shot is her falling into bed. Amelia,
Yes.
our main character.
The first shot is the car crash.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
followed into her falling into bed
Oh,
in
Yeah.
kind of the
okay.
same lighting, so it like
Mm-hmm.
almost like she's just like dreaming about this all the time.
The car crash is, I guess it's her dream about the day that her son was born, Samuel, who
We will get
we
into.
love Samuel. But on the way to the hospital, she's in a car crash with her husband, and her husband dies.
Mhm.
So same day that her son is born, her husband dies. And it eats at her every day.
And she handles that very well and does not take it out on Samuel in the slightest.
Yeah, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
'cause
The
it's
end.
just about a good time.
It's just a
Yeah.
very heartwarming movie through
It
and
is
through.
not heartwarming.
Not in the slightest.
She's really struggling to not have her husband in her life, and like the fact that her son is a reminder of his death every day. But we like whenever she wakes up, I think that's like the first time we see Samuel immediately introduces his weapons.
Mm-hmm.
He's like talking about protecting her. I don't know if
Yes.
he's like started talking about monsters yet at this point.
I think probably by this point he is. It's been previously established that Samuel is very, very terrified of monsters for a soon-to-be 7-year-old, which causes Amelia quite a lot of strife because he is very keen on protecting his mother. Love him for that, even if it means just rocketing a ball through a window.
Yeah.
So he's doing a real bang-up job on protecting
He
her.
has so many weapons. I
So-
don't know how
quite-
he got them.
Quite a few. A concerning amount, almost.
Yeah. He ends up getting not expelled from school, but he gets into trouble at school because he brought his weapons there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Amelia doesn't she have to leave work where she works at a care home.
Yes, for
So
the
she's-
elderly
She's always taking care of people in
Yeah.
her life.
who, the true horror is elderly care homes in this movie because just like it can be in real life, nobody there likes her. So even in her work environment, she kind of can't get any respite from the troubles of her life, which does become very prevalent as we get later into the film. Within the context of the movie, Samuel shares a birthday party every year with his cousin Ruby, and it's implied very early in the film that this is because Amelia kind of cannot stand the thought of doing anything on that day. Obviously, the day that both her husband Oscar died and that Samuel was born. Obviously, a very tumultuous time for that family, which does get brought up, I think, by the neighbor on the drive home from the park after Sam rockets himself off a swing set.
Mrs. Roach.
Mrs. Roach
I love
is
her.
like, I'm not going to do an impression of her because she's a very sweet old lady and I don't want to do that to her.
Why not?
She,
You should do it.
no. She is essentially like, I know how hard this time is for you. You look really tired. And Amelia,
She's offering her help too, like
Yeah.
to watch Sam.
yeah. And this is when we get kind of the first inkling that Amelia is really repressing all of this. Because she's like, no, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about that. And just continues on about her day.
Yeah, she's like fully struggling in silence, and like people like know like that something
Mhm.
happened to her, but like she's not like letting anyone in about it, and she's just kind of like trying to get through all her days.
And nobody really empathizes with her except Mrs. Roach.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, sure, like, her coworker is being very nice to her, but, like, he's not, maybe not aware of everything that's happened or anything
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
And her sister's completely dejected from the entire situation.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you guys if you guys think there is any connection between Mrs. Roach and the Babadook. And maybe we can leave this till later.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
But her name is Mrs. Roach.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That seems like a very
yeah.
obvious thing that
Right.
the director chose on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
there's a-
think Roach is an
There's a lot
excruciating
of
like
bug
common
imagery
surname.
Yeah. And there's
with
a
it.
particular scene later that I'll touch on later because I
I mean,
feel
you
like
can
kind
say
of
what it is now.
okay. When one of the occurrences where the Babadook is visible,
Mm-hmm.
he's behind Mrs. Roach,
Yeah.
doesn't attack her, doesn't, you know,
Yeah. He's
Doesn't-
just standing there to torment Amelia.
she is clearly alone. She's Mrs., so she was married at one point.
Very elderly.
She's very
Mhm.
elderly.
She has Parkinson's.
So, context can be taken from that, saying that
Mhm.
she probably had a spouse that has passed.
Yeah.
Babadook doesn't care.
And I think it might also be worth noting that with Sam and more Mrs. Roach in general, she is a fairly maternal figure.
Yeah.
Like she cares for Sam a lot, she cares for Amelia a lot. She is very insistent on like, hey, I know that this is a hard time for you, so please, if there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know. Which I feel like may factor into the reason the Babadook takes on the appearance that we see later in the film. It is kind of Mrs. Roach may symbolize everything that Amelia knows that she should be and can't be.
Mm-hmm. I would also think that, like, maybe, and we'll definitely talk about this more, but, like, the Babadook itself is a metaphor for grief.
Yeah,
It is a manifestation
not
of it.
again, not to bury the lead on this.
Yeah.
It is kind of very well known at this point that the Babadook is about grief.
Yeah, and, like, what happens when you don't accept it and how it can harm you and your relationships to other people. But, like, thinking about, like, that scare, like, where the Babadook is in her house, like, I could fully believe that, like, she has struggled with her own grief. You know, she's lived her life, but she's also learned how to, like, live with it because she's just watching TV when he shows up, like, in her
Mhm.
house.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, from a, like, just, like, for the horror of it, like, he was just there to, like, scare Amelia. Be
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna come in.
Yeah.
I'm in her house. I'm gonna be in your house too.
It definitely made us worry that
I thought she was
Mrs.
gonna
Roach
die.
was gonna die.
We,
Yeah.
I guess spoilers, but obviously,
Mhm.
other than the dog, this is one of the very few horror movies where no main characters die. Where
Well,
nobody.
except for Oscar.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Rip.
Yeah.
But
He's
he
dead
was
the whole time.
he was dead.
Well, I mean, we saw him die.
He's been dead for 7 years.
He has been dead for 7 years. We know what Amelia's life is like now and how not well she's doing.
Not
Yeah.
stellar.
Yeah, like, so Samuel's, like, super scared of monsters. They have to, like, go check, like, under his bed and closet every day. Like,
Mhm.
even though I think, like, the Babadook stuff kind of starts going, like, pretty soon into the story, maybe, like, day 2 or day 3 when they read that story.
Yeah.
So just, like, we definitely know that Samuel's super scared, and Amelia lets Samuel choose any book to read before bed, and he ends up choosing the Babadook, which ends up being a very disturbing book
Mhm.
about Mr. Babadook who will come into your house and you will not be able to get rid of him, and he will, I don't know if the first version of the book shows him committing violence or just scaring the kid.
It is
Um,
just scaring.
It is
Yeah,
just scaring
But
because
he's terrifying in
Yeah.
the book. Honestly,
the last lines in the book is and when you see what's under my funny disguise, you'll wish that you were dead,
yeah.
which comes up later.
No, the book, even though, like, it's just, like, paper, I feel like it's, like, the scariest version of the Babadook.
Honestly,
Like, the construction of it, it's a pop-up book.
Beautifully made.
It's so
Pap-
good.
I mean-
Papercraft is terrifying.
It's amazing, but it's so scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it scared me. I couldn't imagine being little Samuel seeing that. Like, when they finish reading it, he is sobbing. He
Yeah.
is so scared.
It immediately
Inconsolable.
cuts. It immediately cuts to Amelia reading a different book and Sam just wailing.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the catalyst of like everything that follows, because obviously the movie
Everything it
It
follows.
manifested him.
Yes.
Basically.
They have kind of allowed him in by reading this book, and immediately Amelia's like, we're never reading this again. She puts
Yeah.
it on her top shelf. She locks it up.
Mm-hmm. It's just a
Um,
story. She
it's-
tries to console Sam.
Yeah, it's just a book to a grown adult because it is a book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a weird book
Yeah.
that somehow ended up in your house.
So, my absolute homeboy in this movie, Robbie, Amelia's coworker
Oh, yeah.
at the Care Institute, is like, "Oh, well, if your son's sick, just take the rest of the day off. I'll cover for you. You're good." And Amelia, finally having a moment to herself, does not go pick Sam up, even though Sam is not sick. He just is left with Claire. She goes to get ice cream, I think. And when she inevitably musters up the energy to come back, Claire has called her several times. And Sam is outside, just sitting on the ground. And Claire tells Amelia, yeah, he like freaked me and Ruby out because he was talking to this bloody Babadook all day. That's the one accent you'll get from me.
It is Australian. It's an Australian horror movie, so obligatory Australian accents.
Which is when I think tensions really do start rising between Amelia and Sam. Because whenever Amelia confronts Sam about this, Sam pulls out from his pocket, what are they called?
Firecrackers?
Firecrackers?
I think so.
They're the little things that you throw on the ground and they pop.
Yeah. One of his many weapons. Where did he get all of these?
No clue.
Like,
Apparently, she purchased them online for him because she seems to be a negligent mother,
A little bit.
understandably. but-
Yeah.
oh,
and,
so they
um,
do have internet in this.
Yeah.
We were kind of like,
Well,
Yeah, they had a home computer.
we were
I saw
confused,
that.
like what time period this was set in.
It's early 2000s, it
Well,
seems.
That's the end of the
90s.
internet.
There has to be an internet in there. Yeah, and I feel like that's like one of like the first times that we like fully see him like actually being like disobedient,
Mm-hmm.
because like she told him like, don't talk about the Babadook.
Yeah.
No monster talk.
Don't tell your Aunt Claire about this.
Yeah, and then guess what he did? He went and did that.
Once and told his Aunt
Which
Claire.
like Samuel L. move.
Really, you're not doing yourself any favors here, King.
Like people don't like Sam.
No,
What did you guys have any?
we can. I guess we'll address the elephant in the room, which is dearest Samuel.
Samuel.
I understand why people don't like him, but I feel like that comes from a lot of misunderstanding because, believe it or not, Sam is 7 years old. You know, I can only speak for myself here, not you, dearest listeners at home. I would hate 7-year-old me.
Oh, yeah. I think that's a universal experience.
Yeah.
Like 7-year-olds like aren't supposed to have it together. They're
No.
supposed to be
No.
kind of silly
It's
and goofy.
the terrible 2s and the sucky 7s.
I think a lot of it, because like one of the things that like before coming into like watching this movie and like deciding to do the podcast episode on this, I just knew that people didn't like Samuel, and people had very strong opinions about how much they didn't like him. But like I think that people are very unempathetic towards him and like what he's going through. I don't know if at the point where he's just talking about the Babadook, did they say that he's talking to him?
Yeah.
They're talking to him. Once he has read the book, I would like to assume that he is starting to see the Babadook in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of comes from, like, since the Babadook is grief, Samuel's whole life, he has been surrounded by this grief that his mother, like, hasn't really explained to him what that is. Like, he just doesn't know what grief feels like and what it does to people.
He has inherited grief, which is something you can't really solve or work with because it's not part of your reality at all. It's just something you.
It's like more of a feeling.
It's a very strange type of grief where I can talk a little bit like to this personally, where if either somebody who should be important to you dies before you were born or before you were really like cognizant, it's grieving somebody you have never met, which is an extremely strange experience.
Yeah.
Like my maternal grandfather, I was alive when he was alive, but was very young. And I would get told these stories about him and be like, wow,
like this guy existed.
yeah, this is somebody that was very important to the people in my life that I don't really remember.
Yeah.
Which is, I can definitely empathize with Sam on that aspect.
Yeah, it's his dad who he doesn't have. And like,
my grandfather is not like my father.
He like sees everyone like with dads and he ends up getting bullied for it by his cousin. Ruby is like the real villain here.
Ruby is the true villain.
Sucks.
Ruby sucks.
Does Ruby have a dad? You never see him.
You never see him.
I mean, he's probably
he's probably implied.
at his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
It's a birthday
implied
party.
That Ruby is is in a very wealthy, well-off family.
Yeah, and like all the people like at their birthday party later on. It's not their birthday party. It's only Ruby's because Ruby doesn't want to share it anymore with Sam.
Which valid. I gotta give her that one.
Yeah, like that makes sense.
When your cousin starts talking about monsters, it's a little like.
I wouldn't want to share a birthday with this weirdo.
We were just talking about how much we like. Hey, everyone's too mean to Sam.
No, I'm pretending that I'm 7-year-old Ruby.
That's fair.
Yeah.
If I have my cousin, who like
he's just talking nonsense,
nonsense about a monster and scaring me, I'm like, I don't want to hang out with him.
Right.
He has no dad too. I'm gonna bully him for that.
I guess that's the perfect segue into, I would say, one of my favorite scenes of the movie, the birthday party scene and everything that happens after it, which is the most of the movie.
Yeah. Like, there's like 2 parts to it. It's like the first bit is like they're all inside and talking, and it's more focused on like how Amelia doesn't feel connected to anyone. Like, it's like all women, mothers around her age. She's the only one who's seated, and like they like really like isolate her and bring up Oscar, right?
Yeah, they do.
I don't remember what they say.
One person mentions being at like working for a shelter for disadvantaged women, and she was like, "Well, yeah, you can swing by," and then she starts talking about not being able to go to the gym, and Amelia kind of like snaps at that moment and is like, "That must be so hard for you, not being able to go to the gym. We literally just talked about my dead husband.
Yeah.
So that must truly suck for
like,
you."
Yeah, you remind me of the people who I work with at this shelter, and like trying to be helpful in like the most
condescending
way possible. Like it really makes Amelia feel way more isolated. Like the people who she should be around, who she should fit in with, she fundamentally can't.
Right.
And she fundamentally can't in a way because of her son, and it doesn't help that they don't like her son either. The same way audiences don't like Samuel, most people in the movie don't like Samuel. Amelia doesn't really like Samuel.
Though she will never admit that.
Yeah, because you can't. Because like, that's
because she
son.
loves Samuel.
Yeah.
She doesn't really like him.
She doesn't like him. And she doesn't like that she has him over Oscar.
That's definitely like the main thing she's grappling with.
This is actually an aspect that I think really comes out in full force in the birthday scene that I haven't really touched on. Kind of like I said in our introductory episode, which if you have not listened, go listen. But after you finish this one, the use of color in this movie is wonderful because it is so ungodly drab. And during the birthday party scene, literally every single adult is wearing black. And the only pop of color is Amelia, who has a black overcoat on this like kind of faded pink slip dress, essentially. Which I've seen some analysis of this, which is one, she's wearing her grief, even if she's trying to mask it under this veneer of the perfect mother, aka the pink slip. But also, like, whenever you think of a single mother, Amelia's outfit is what you think of. Like, it is, like I said, it's faded, it's kind of frail, it is bog standard feminine. She is essentially putting on this costume of a mom where she's just masking every single thing that is catastrophic in her life right now.
But like the masking doesn't work that
It doesn't-
well. She looks like a
which-
mess.
Which is why, probably from a character design standpoint, the black is on top. Like, she's trying to keep it in, and this gets brought up in a later section of this same scene. She is like, well, it's not affecting me, even though it very clearly is, which is why this movie is so clever and I like it so much.
good. One thing that like I wanted to bring up about the colors that I read about, apparently like if I understood correctly, they did like minimal, if not any, color correcting in this movie.
Oh.
Mhm.
Where like all of like the shots, like and like the colors that you get is like just what the camera picked up. So like
Mhm.
the drabness of it, that's just what Australia looks like.
Yeah. Which is both like an extremely smart like cost cutting move, but it also adds to the movie, which is why I just like so attracted to these indies or indie type movies that are low budget and still manage to do something
Yeah, like-
amazing.
Definitely not low budget, but like
It was
I mean,
$2,000 is kind of low budget for
$2 million.
It's $2
not
million.
2,000.
$2,000. That's
$2,000
is
so
definitely
impressive.
like a very little amount for
Yeah.
a movie.
And it was crowdfunded.
And got some
Wow.
Australian
Which-
government money.
I can actually briefly touch on this.
Ooh.
Spoilers. There was a film company that was going to fund the movie with the caveat that the Babadook was killed at the end. And Jennifer
So
Kent,
stupid.
the director, said, "No, that's not the story I'm trying to tell," which is why she went for like government grant money and public funding for this film so she could essentially get out the story she wanted to tell, which
Yeah.
I really
God
respect.
bless
that.
Australia.
Absolutely.
I don't understand that. A lot of execs kind of think that people want that, honestly, that like a resolution
Mm-hmm.
to a movie, because they tend to have that influence with things.
Mhm.
Yeah, like there's so many, not so many times, but like whenever I've seen like notable examples of like endings being changed to appeal to like more audiences, it's always worse.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Have you guys ever seen Little Shop of Horrors and know about its two endings?
Yes.
One of the endings, and this is like the theatrical ending, is them just moving to a suburb together.
hmm
And the other one is like an insane world domination plan. And that one
Yeah.
is so much more fun to watch.
I want to say that the original ending, not the theatrical one, is the one that the stage play had.
Good.
I think.
As it should. It's like so much more effective. And like I think that people are sometimes afraid to have like a unconventional ending. And I do think that the Babadook did have an unconventional ending.
For a horror movie, definitely.
Like I did not expect it to end the way it did, but like I think that for its themes, that really was the most effective thing.
hmm
So Samuel is with Ruby
Yes.
Yes.
in Ruby's treehouse, and
Boo.
Boo, Ruby. we
Boo,
don't like her.
Ruby.
Ruby saying like, "Get out of my treehouse" or
Yeah.
something, like nobody likes you. Just
You have no
being
dad.
very mean to Samuel,
have a
emphasizing
dad.
that she doesn't have that
Well, that's
Samuel doesn't have a
That
dad.
was British.
And obviously, I mean, when someone is very mean to you, your immediate response is to get either sad or angry.
Yeah.
Sam gets angry and he pushes her,
Out of a treehouse.
and it's out of the treehouse. And a little bit of a continuity issue. She fell backwards and she broke her nose.
Yeah, she felt like when they
She-
showed her, she was on her front, and I'm like,
I think she did like a Family Guy fall where it was like,
I can only assume that, she did like an aerial tuck.
yeah,
she was doing flips in the air as
Did
she
a
was
backflip.
falling.
I hope so.
It'd be so funny. I wish they showed that scene, but
Triple axel.
they didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah. They also couldn't just throw a little girl off of a treehouse.
Why not?
Probably not.
What do you mean?
They just switched to like
What's wrong with that?
a stuntman just in a little
A
wig.
full-size
full-grown
person.
man.
Grown man.
A grown man.
We can actually touch on that later whenever we get
Oh,
to more
yeah.
general
Yeah.
trivia about this
Whenever
movie.
the Babadook fully manifests.
Yeah, but he's not here yet. Only in Samuel's mind.
One thing that happens very slightly before and kind of during the confrontation scene
It's
in the
going back and
treehouse
forth.
is Amelia is talking to Claire kind of away from the other mothers, and she's expressing her frustrations about, like, I'm over this. I don't bring it up anymore. I don't talk about it, but like everybody still keeps bothering me with it. And we were all literally sitting in our little cubbies watching this movie, being like, girl, that's not how it works.
That's not how you process grief.
Yeah, he's textbook definition
I
of
will
not
say-
handling it.
Probably at this point, before like the Babadook has shown up, therapy could have solved this.
Probably could have.
Like I don't mean to be like this movie's so stupid. She should have just gotten therapy, but she should have just gotten therapy.
She should have just
Yeah,
gone to
like
therapy.
definitely the biggest solution, but like realistically, that is an experience that so many people
I
have.
mean,
They just
maybe,
don't
Maybe
see it
we've
as an
just
option.
more so accepted therapy nowadays.
That's
Yeah.
true. It's very
Compared to
recent development.
Nearly 10 years ago.
Hmm.
At this point, really scary to think about.
Yeah.
But like I don't think people were as like willing to talk about like their mental health and like their grief and like willing to admit when they're not doing well because
Mhm.
Amelia can't admit it the
Yeah.
whole movie.
And maybe
Yeah.
maybe the culture in Australia is even, it could be a little bit more strict about that kind of about
Mhm.
that kind of thing, a little more conservative about your emotions.
Yeah, definitely.
We definitely don't have the authority to talk on that too much.
I've never
Yeah.
been to Australia.
Oh.
Oh, so on the way home from the birthday party is
Ooh, this is juicy.
the first time that like I guess we can confirm that Samuel is seeing the Babadook. He's like having a tantrum in the car, kicking on her seat and screaming mommy in the way that he does. It's very I don't know what the right way to say this is, but like it makes me want to pull out my hair, like the
Mhm.
way that he screams and cries for her, which is why people
Which-
don't like her.
which is-
like him.
Extremely effective because it puts you like so much of
I
this
feel
film.
like her. I feel like driving off a bridge.
It puts you immediately in her shoes about like the camera work, the sound design, how loud he is screaming, that kind of unique thing that can sometimes happen when you're really overstimulated dealing with a child, which is what she yells, "Why can't you just be normal?" Which is a funny line, but also extremely
That's what, like,
tragic.
you went into the movie saying, you're like, I
Yes,
know one line from
I
this
know.
movie.
Why can't you just
Why
be normal?
can't you just be normal?
And then shrieks. It was only in subtitles, so I didn't know what it actually sounded like.
Was it?
It was-
you hoped
It was
could have
just
been?
as magical as I hoped it'd
Yeah, iconic line. But then I guess the Babadook is in the back seat with him, and he just starts not having tantrum anymore. He is just terrified, and he ends up having a seizure where
Mhm.
they said his brain overheated.
Yeah.
I guess.
Some kind of condition like that. And
Mhm.
we don't see the Babadook. We don't see
No.
anything next to him. So all that we can assume as a viewer, watching a horror movie, you assume that the Babadook is real.
Yeah.
But like you assume that Sam is seeing things like
going
that
crazy.
are not real.
Yeah.
Because he's been seeing monsters, for as long as we've known him in the story.
I would like to note that Sam only like physically sees the Babadook for the first time after Amelia first snaps at him
Oh yeah.
and yells, "Why can't you just be normal?" And I feel like that's kind of the catalyst where, especially during this point in the film, I feel like the Babadook kind of represents what Amelia is going to turn into if she does not deal with this.
Mhm.
because that's the first time that she like really raised her voice at him throughout this film.
I think that like the way that the Babadook isn't invisible to her until a certain point in the movie, but visible to Samuel the whole time. Like I think it also shows like her repression and the way that she ignores her grief over
Mhm.
the death of Oscar.
Yeah.
But Samuel, as I mentioned earlier, is living it.
Mm-hmm.
And so like whenever you said that like the first time he shows up to that extent that Sam is in like literal medical danger because of it. Like it shows like the fear that he has over this grief that he doesn't understand, and he's so scared of like, why doesn't my mom think I'm normal? What is wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so much stuff going on in his life that he just does not understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's terrifying.
Definitely.
From this seizure that he has, they go to the doctor, and this is when Amelia begs the doctor for sedatives
Mm-hmm.
so that to put him to sleep.
Yeah.
Because she has not been able to sleep. He has been badgering her
Yeah.
relentlessly.
Literally every single night he has been like going into her room, at a certain point interrupting some personal time.
The poor woman.
That's where Amelia kind of breaks down to the doctor and is like, my son, he's troubled. Gets him a psychiatrist appointment and just begs, like, just until we get the test results in, can you please give us some sedatives? He will not sleep. I am at my wit's end right now. And the doctor relents and prescribes Sam a round of sedatives that have various side effects that I feel like might kind of characterize the latter half of this film, depending on how literally we want to take the Babadook within the fiction.
I mean, like, what does...
Just tired and hungry. Yeah.
Isn't, like, nauseous? Nausea's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot what the other side effects were.
Drowsiness.
Yeah, which does definitely come up later.
Yeah, like, I feel like the second half of the movie, even though, like, it's scary, it also has, like, a weird, like, laziness and, like, it kind of, like, is drawn out a lot. Like, it's just, like, a lot of them, like,
tastefully drawn out.
Hanging around the house, being tired.
Mm-hmm.
Hanging out together.
It feels sluggish. Like, I can only describe it. It is the movie equivalent of waking up after a nap and still being tired, but like a specific brand of tired.
It's like when you go to sleep, like after school, and then like you wake up and it's like 6 p.m. and you feel weird.
You just feel awful.
Yeah.
And like especially if it's a time of year where it's starting to get dark again, and you're like,
that's what this movie feels like.
Waking up when it's dark, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's like sun's going down.
Yeah, it is an incredibly disorienting movie, but. The next most, like, influential scene is later that night, the book is back.
Yeah.
And
after we actually failed to acknowledge
is
this.
Is this what it comes back from because Sam has it again at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not quite sure if it's before the party or after.
The dresser that is in Sam's room, during a previous scene that we haven't touched on, it topples over. Scares the living daylights out of him, for a nicer way of putting it. And where Amelia had put the book, it was now laying on the ground. She rips it up, throws it away.
Yes.
Now, she goes to the door, and guess what's on her doorstep? Yes, the door is knocked on.
3 knocks?
3 knocks. And she opens the door, and there sits a reassembled book with a few new pages.
Tastefully edited.
Tastefully edited. The Babadook was like, thank you so much for your feedback. I have decided to make a revised edition.
You're in the story now.
Yeah.
It's not just a kid anymore.
To quote Nicki Minaj, this the remix.
It's like one of those Wattpad stories where you have like your name in it.
Yes,
it was
literally.
This book was a Y/N
author's
story
note
with Amelia.
I'm gonna terrify and possess and murder Y/N.
So she opens this book and we see the same few pages, but then
They're taped back together.
yeah, it's like taped, glued. It's like the most jigsawed
Arts and
way back
crafts.
together. It was art. Yeah, he's good at what he does.
He's so
Yeah.
good.
So she opens the book and obviously, like we said, there's a couple more pages. She flips to them. They are a depiction of a woman first being subsumed by the Babadook. Next page is next page strangling the dog.
Yes.
Yeah.
Their sweet, sweet dog. Best actor in the movie.
Hachi.
Hachi.
That's the actor.
Oh,
The dog's name is
Bugsy.
Dog's name is Bugsy.
Oh yeah.
In the film.
Second bug name, Miss Roach and Bugsy.
Bugsy.
I didn't even think about that.
Ooh.
You didn't?
No, I
Oh.
honestly I didn't even notice the Miss Roach thing until after.
I didn't either.
Mhm.
I only noticed Miss Roach until like we were talking about it, but I'm like Bugsy.
Bugsy. That's true.
Very strong bug motifs throughout those.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'll see that even further with the Babadook.
Yeah.
So she is reading this book, and it's depicting a woman, and I mean, we can only assume
It's
it's
her.
Implied
her
to be Amelia.
strangling her dog Bugsy, and then she flips to the next page. She is
Strangling.
strangling.
No, I think she has a knife.
She has a
That's in-
knife, but she is strangling
that's
her
in the last
son
one.
Samuel.
Oh.
And then in the last page, she is
She-
slitting her own throat.
Oh.
Which, again, flair for the dramatic with the little red ribbon coming down. Fierce.
Yeah, this is a pop-up book. This is
No.
all like
His crafts are so good.
I'm so envious, to be honest.
yeah.
And another important thing to note that appears in the book is the line, "The more you deny, the stronger I get." Which,
He's already got more effects in his book.
Mm-hmm.
He's already stronger in his arts and crafts skills.
Yup.
He's also gonna get stronger in his manifesting into her home skills.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that line also rings pretty true about her
Her grief.
grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you deny your grief, it's just gonna keep building
Keep
and
going and
Mhm.
going.
affect you more.
Just a very core tenet of this film.
Yeah.
If the more you deny it, the worse it's gonna get. And
Um,
boy, I almost said boy George.
Boy George.
And by
Golly
Jove,
gee.
does it get worse?
Yeah. She tries to go to the police,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
she's already
No.
burned the book.
Not before
Yes.
she gets a call from who she initially thought to be Claire. And over the phone, you hear, ba, 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 Dook. I'm not going to do the entire thing. It's the
We were one
Babadook.
Dook off.
I was,
His voice is so scary to me.
Dook, Dook.
Like, I
It's a
don't know
lot.
what it is about it.
I honestly, whenever I hear like a phone call from like a horror character, I assume it's gonna be cringy because it's gonna be like, I'm gonna get ya
I'm gonna
or
get
something,
you.
or it's just
Wanna
like
know
somebody
who I'm
breathing on the
looking
other
at right
end.
now?
Yeah. What's your
Um,
favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna gut you like a fish, or whatever he says.
But no, it's just this like gut wrenching like just sound of like almost a door knocking.
Mm-hmm.
Baba Dook Dook, and I would honestly say that's probably when I was damn near pooping my pants.
Truly.
Like the early scares in this movie get me so much more than the later ones.
It is heightening, and it does not let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
That is actually something that I would like to point out in this
Yeah.
exact scene that I kind of saw some analysis of in doing research to record this episode, where during the time that this came out, it was again like a lot of people that wanted to be The Conjuring. The Conjuring is a franchise that doesn't solely rely on, but pretty heavily implements the jump scare. And so Amelia's on the phone. She puts it down, walks out of frame. Long shot of just an out of focus living room, where if this was a different movie, you'd see something.
Mhm.
Nothing happens. She comes back to the phone and answers it, and then the Babadook things happen, which is again part of why I love this movie so much, because it toys with your expectations, especially during this time of the genre. You would expect a jump scare to happen, and
Absolutely.
it didn't.
and there's like
And I'm just even more
no
scared now.
jump scares in this movie.
Really
not?
Which, like, I was kind of disappointed by.
Not me. I loved it.
I was waiting for a jump scare. I was like, I need this tension to be paid off. I need to get scared.
But that's what's so good about it is because I walked home scared shitless.
That's the reason I wouldn't stop talking on the way home, because I just
anytime I saw anybody who was like in shadow,
in a hat
Mhm.
and a long
yeah,
coat.
yeah, everybody long stilettos.
You know, as they do in 2023.
yeah, right on Hillsborough Street.
And just really long acrylics, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
She's eating it up.
Third
She
third
ate.
example, the Babadook being gay. Those nails.
Those
nails.
nails. Come on now.
They're so well manicured.
Honestly,
I was expecting like some kind of like usage of those nails, like some kind of stabbing, you know?
there was a lot of
Yeah.
face rubbing.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of face rubbing,
And like
which I would say is
getting face rubbed by like long talons like that.
honestly, I feel like
He
that
never
would cure me.
directly hurt anybody.
No.
Did he?
He like
He
I mean, he
possessed
threw-
Amelia.
Yeah, but like
Oh,
that
yeah,
is
he did.
via. He did throw Sam around, but that's
Yeah.
you don't see him do that. The Babadook never touches anyone.
Mhm.
He's just like an ethereal.
Yeah.
But at this point in the story, we have not yet physically seen
Yeah.
him.
So we have the phone call. So we've heard him definitely, and
Yeah.
Sam has seen him.
Mm-hmm.
Amelia tries to go to the police, but they can't do anything about it because like she got rid of the book, and I forget like why the call doesn't really matter.
I think she didn't want to say what it was because it sounds. I mean, it does sound
Doesn't-
ridiculous.
Yeah, and like they all kind
Also-
of like they all laugh at her.
Yeah. People in the background laugh at her,
Mhm.
and part of the reason that she doesn't go any further with it is because hanging on the wall is a top hat and a long trench coat.
Yeah. And this is probably a great time to talk about the top hat and the trench coat.
Let's talk about the top hat and the trench coat.
Yes, because that is a thing that keeps coming up
We've seen it a
Yes.
few times
Yeah.
around just like hanging up somewhere.
on mannequins
Mhm.
I
in
think
the basement.
in the basement Oscar had a hat and a
Yep.
trench coat that's
It's a part of his performance.
hanging out. But probably like the biggest one is Samuel loves magic.
Yes.
And he likes putting on shows. And like part of like Amelia's like depression is that like she doesn't always want to give him the attention for it.
Yeah.
It probably happened earlier in this point, but Samuel was doing magic shows in the basement with a picture of
Mm-hmm.
his dad and mom.
Yeah.
And magicians, the top hat and the coat. I
Mhm.
don't know if we've seen his the one on TV.
Yeah.
I think we talked a little bit about this before we started recording. Do
Mhm.
you remember?
Yeah.
what the-
So I can't remember what the illusionist's name is, but Samuel is very obsessed with watching this one CD of a magician that he like quotes. He tries to embody essentially, and a piece of analysis that I found really poignant about this is, in the absence of Oscar in his life, this man on a recording is kind of the only paternal figure that Sam has, which is probably why the costuming of the Babadook and this magician are so similar. They're both wearing a top hat, they're both wearing a long cloak. Probably not the nails.
What do you mean?
We don't see, but
But he watches it incessantly, repeats what the magician says, and is now in the basement.
very treacherous.
Yeah, very treacherous.
Very treacherous.
He is now reenacting this for stuffed animals and for photos of his parents. And he has all of his father's stuff around him. And obviously, magic can get a little loud. So Amelia goes down there.
Mhm.
And she does not appreciate that he has all of Oscar's things astrewn around the basement.
Mhm.
And this is another time she kind of snaps at him.
Yeah.
And you can see, because she sends him upstairs, she's cleaning up the basement. She's holding all of these things to her
Yeah.
chest. She is clearly not handled anything.
He's just put all of his stuff down in the basement
Yep.
and like
She's doing a great job of handling all of those.
Yes.
just shove it
It's
all
just
down
been-
there. Like,
Yeah, and,
don't need to deal with
Just
it.
just shoving it down.
Also, with Oscar's violin, she literally goes and cradles it in bed. So she's doing a real bang up job
She's
on this whole grieving
Cradling
thing.
that violin more than she does her own son.
Honestly. Because one of the shots that I really enjoyed at the beginning of the film that kind of immediately established the dynamic that would happen between Amelia and Sam is when Sam first crawls into bed and they're like both going to sleep. There's a sizable distance between them two.
She like turns away.
She literally
and
turns
goes
away
to
from
be
Sam.
on the edge of the bed away from him.
Yeah.
To be fair, Sam does go to like grab her.
Yeah.
Like her hair and stuff. So
Yeah,
like,
he's like kind of
I'll
like
probably do that too. To be honest.
hugging like really hard around her neck.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which comes up later. This
But
movie is
kids
so
do
clever.
that quite a bit. They just go like monkey mode and they
Yeah.
put a like
Yeah.
latch on.
As we all do sometimes.
Sometimes we just go monkey mode.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
just gotta go monkey mode.
I hope that sticks as like a through line on the podcast.
We just go monkey mode.
And now it's
We just-
time for them to go monkey mode.
So
the Babadook is about to go monkey mode.
mode.
you are extremely good at
I'm on the
segues
nose.
because
Is it
that night the Babadook strikes for the first time. This is the first time that Amelia actually sees the Babadook, which is where we can kind of get into the bug imagery.
Ooh. Oh my god. I
So,
love this scene.
She hears the knocking, and then the door creaks open, and out from it, skittering across the ceiling like a cockroach,
A cockroach.
is the Babadook.
Yes.
And kind of in a fun mirror of Samuel in like childhood, she hides under the blankets.
Yeah.
And then when she peeks out, that's when she lets it in.
Well, I think that didn't it knock earlier? Like it knocked 3 times at the door.
Mhm.
So like she like already let it in, but like now like it's actually like in her.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
She
this is when she
House.
starts.
breathed it in.
She did. It's inside her now, and like
I would say this is kind of like planting the seed of the Babadook. Because this is when she starts like her downward spiral in earnest, but it doesn't actually fully get in until a later scene
yeah,
that we'll
that kind
touch
of like
on.
confused me a bit, and like I will say like probably this first like more horror bit I was super on board for, but like at a certain point I kind of just like felt like I was like they're just like doing the same stuff over and over again.
Mhm.
So like I thought that this was like when the Babadook was let in, but she doesn't get like fully possessed by it until later.
Yeah.
Which is kind of confusing to me. But
Well, she's got to keep denying it.
This is the time that it first starts to slip.
yeah.
And I mean, this is the first seeing of the Babadook, and I really like what they do with his crawling across the ceiling.
It's so cool.
They like cut frames out or something.
Yeah.
They did it like stop motion.
Oh, okay.
So I was reading about it, and I hope I can find it in time.
We just cut it out.
So
don't we?
Yeah.
yeah, if that scene specifically was like not an actual actor, like if it was like them just like moving around something in some way, like a stop motion, which they did use stop motion. It's so cool, and they have like I don't know like what kind of bug it is, like I don't know, cricket or a cicada. I should know my bugs better, but
Mhm.
like he's just moving around in
Yeah.
that very jagged way across the ceiling, making these scary bug noises.
It sounds like the skittering of a cockroach. A cockroach.
He could, and like we see some cockroaches later, so like
Yeah.
Um,
There's a bug through line.
this whole time I've been like trying to think about like what the bugs like represent and mean, and like my best guess is that it's just like a pest.
Mhm.
Like the Babadook is a pest that
It's an infestation essentially.
yeah, like no matter how hard you try, like they're just gonna keep coming back. I feel like just like having like the bug sound and like having more bugs that actually end up like there's like an infestation in the house
Yeah.
at some point.
Mhm.
It
He
just,
is an infestation.
it makes
Yeah.
my skin crawl.
Yeah.
Like thinking about having
I
all
don't-
these bugs around.
I don't,
Like
I don't do
it
bugs.
does. I like the idea of them, and like another movie that uses a lot of bug imagery, Coraline.
True.
That's
I
exactly what I
love
was
their
thinking.
use of bugs in it,
Mhm.
and like, but they definitely take it in a very different direction in that movie. So I've just been thinking about this whole time, like all the bug stuff, because we definitely see it here for the first time, him as a bug, and we also see his face.
Yeah.
Which I don't like his face.
He
very
looks a little
much.
silly goofy,
He
to
does
be
look
honest.
a little silly goofy.
He looks better in the storybook
in the
form.
storybook.
But I mean, you can't just like slap that on an actor and just kind of hope for the best.
Yeah, animation is always better than your live action.
And if you're doing it practically with your small budget, I can let it slide. That I don't really, because we don't really see his face much. He drops, his face like drops down onto Amelia's point of view that we're watching. And like that was like the closest thing I think we got to a jump scare.
Yeah.
And like,
but even then, it
wasn't that effective.
It was.
I was just like, oh,
set up.
Cool. He kind of looks silly.
Because you knew that he was gonna attack. He was literally on the ceiling.
Yeah, he was crawling up. He's gotta make his presence known.
So this is the time in the film that Amelia goes from a bad mom to a horrible mom.
Yeah, she's starting to lose it.
Yeah, she looks awful throughout this movie. She looks so haggard.
I don't know what they do to this poor woman, but like they make her look like they killed her husband in real life.
She's so stressed.
It looks like before every scene they just tossed her down some stairs.
Didn't we say that it looks like they shook her?
Yes, I said that it looks like they took her by the shoulders and shook her before every shot.
It's like, okay, you're good to go.
Yeah.
You're ready.
This fluffed her up like a pillow.
Oh my
And
God.
especially as we get on with it in the movie, like it goes from this kind of obvious but somewhat masked shittiness of how she looks, for lack of a more eloquent way of putting it, to just looking like she has not showered in several
she
days.
probably hasn't.
Other than the bath.
This is, oh yeah, I don't.
Which that's not really cleaning.
No,
herself.
No,
she's just kind of sitting
fully
there.
clothed.
in a warm bath, and like
Very indicative of like a depressive state.
I
Yeah.
kind of thought that was like, because I thought that the Babadook was like possessing her at this point, which I was wrong about. I was kind of thinking about like this
To an
like
extent.
creature trying to
like
get
almost in
warmed up, just
Yeah.
getting in it, and it's like,
It's
hey,
like a water bug.
picking up Sam, putting him in the bath, but she's
Full
just like
clothes on.
Cooking them. No, that's not what
turning him into
happens.
soup.
Yeah.
She is like fully like yelling at him now.
Yeah.
And like I think that she like starts to like see herself doing violent things to him and getting like really freaked out about that.
Yeah. She is like up late watching TV one
They're
day.
in like a fugue state at this point. Like
Yeah.
they're both so tired.
They're
'cause
tired.
She's constantly giving him sedatives
Yeah.
throughout this
And
whole
it is
period.
implied that she has taken some of the sedatives too.
Yes.
Like when they first get diagnosed, there is literally a scene of her like floating down gently into her bed.
The same way that she did at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. So the implication to that to me is she is popping those pills like
Mhm.
candy.
She finds like behind like her fridge that there's like a hole in the wall where a bunch of cockroaches are coming out of.
Like an absurd amount. Not like
so many.
like-
she is frantically cleaning the fridge now.
Yeah.
Trying
There
to
are
like
cockroaches.
Yeah. So now all this food's out on the counter. She is gloves, mopping, everything.
Yeah.
Knock at the door.
At perhaps the worst time.
Yes, and
It's CPS.
obviously,
Literally,
but
whatever the Australian equivalent of CPS is.
she's been getting knocks, and those usually haven't been good.
Yeah.
Because it was the book before.
This one isn't good.
This one's not good either.
But this
but
is
at
a
least it's not the Babadook.
this is a mundane type
know.
of not good.
I don't know if I'd rather get CPS at my door or the Babadook, especially if like
I'd rather get CPS.
Well, I get a fun Papa book out of the Babadook. So
yeah, and then you die.
yeah, but all I get is
you
some
don't
stupid
have to die. You
papers.
just wish you were. You just wish you would die.
Yeah.
Guys. So
So this is the part where Sean walks out on us.
yeah, this is when it becomes a duo podcast. So CPS is here. She opens the door. It's two government officials. They come in and they're being very vague about everything. They're like,
Yeah.
we need to discuss things. We've got some paperwork for you.
Because Sam hasn't been in school for a few.
Yes.
2 weeks at this point, maybe.
I don't think it was.
No, maybe a week.
I think it was 2 weeks at the end of the film,
Okay.
but it
It's
was
been a couple days.
it was
basically.
enough time to be concerning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they walk in and they have a quick little chit chat with Sam, who is what's a good way of putting this?
Under the influence.
Under the influence,
Kind of a snitch.
and a little bit out of it.
No, it looks so bad for Amelia
Yeah.
because she's like,
Liter-
he's on sedatives right now and not in
Yeah.
school.
Literally, like the worst time
Yeah.
that CPS could come to
And
this
she has
house.
to explain, like,
Well, perhaps
hey,
not the worst, considering what happens later. But
She has to explain, like, hey, these are from a doctor.
yeah,
They're not hearing any of it because obviously she looks like a negligent mother.
yeah.
And then they go into the kitchen, and she's like, I'm sorry. I've been cleaning up this hole in the wall.
Well, all the
Oh,
work
what
practice.
hole in the wall?
Yeah, and there's no hole in the wall.
No.
Bob.
Ba.
And obviously now the CPS are like, okay, we know what's happening. So they give her paperwork and they leave.
And then Sam snitches again
Again.
because he literally like tells them, I feel nauseous because I'm supposed to take these medicine with food and she hasn't been feeding me.
So this is the I threw up.
Literally
Yeah.
the I threw it up.
He looks like it so much.
He looks awful.
And like all the food is like on the counter. All of it's going bad
Yeah.
now.
Mm.
And some of the meals that they're eating, I don't know if it's like, maybe I'm just not very cultured, but it
Stop.
looks very drab. And is that like an indication of their socioeconomic status? Or is that just like to keep everything as Pantone as possible?
Probably
Like,
both.
we can't mess up the colors of this
honest.
shot.
Yeah,
we need
'cause
the most
they were literally just eating
gross-looking slop.
Bread and white
Like
soup.
white
It looked kinda
untoasted bread
yellow.
and soup
Yeah, it
with,
was like tan soup, but like
Ugh.
still.
with glass in it.
There's
yes.
glass in it.
So I don't remember when exactly this happens, but there is glass in her soup.
It
and-
happens, I think, after first reading the book.
yes, and it is
I feel
obviously driven them to paranoia of eating anything in their house.
Yeah.
like, yeah, I thought that like the way that like the scene like was set up that like she thinks that Sam put it in there.
Right, because she
Mhm.
had just yelled at him earlier.
And she had like
Yeah.
went away for a second and came back and there's glass in only hers.
Yeah,
I think she fishes some out of Sam's too.
I thought that
No,
she like
it was
looked
clean.
for it
Oh.
but didn't find it, but then she found more in her own.
Yeah, I think they don't really. I think we can just assume that she thought that, but now
Mhm.
obviously she's being stalked by this Baba
Yeah.
Dook figure.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe she just assumes that it's his fault.
There is a bit of interim with her snapping at Sam, then apologizing and trying to make it up to him, and then snapping and apologizing. And she's trying her hardest to like be this good mother, even though she is very clearly losing it. Like she's like, we could have ice cream for dinner.
Is that when the like he comes to her bedroom and she's like laying depressed in bed?
Yeah. You can go eat shit.
Oh my god, no. I hated this scene, but like not in like a it was so bad, but it was like a
Oh
Ooh.
god.
Yeah, you can't say
Like, he's-
that.
Mhm.
he's so hungry.
Yeah.
And he is on. It was specified earlier in the film. This sedative medication must be taken with food.
Mhm.
Yeah, so he's just going
He's
through
like,
it.
I
Yeah.
want to take it because you want me to, but I'm so hungry. Could you make me something? And
It's
she,
like, oh my god, do you ever stop talking? Literally.
like,
S-
this made me feel bad in like
Yeah.
the 7-year-old in me. I'm like, oh my god. And like she apologizes, and like that's when like they go out to eat.
Yeah.
Mm.
And like they're like next to like a birthday party.
Which
yeah, a
is
bunch of rowdy kids.
not helping.
Yeah.
With another single mother, I noticed, but that could just be,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's more like, just
This is
coincidence.
you
but-
should have the energy for this. You should be able to do this, and like your
Yeah,
son
just
should have friends wanting to celebrate his birthday.
driving her
Mhm.
down even more.
But you don't because you're such a bad mother.
Yeah. And so he's fed, and
Yeah.
then they head back home.
And
And then,
On the drive.
yeah, she
Oh yeah, she
kind of
gets into a
She
crash.
loses it.
low-key freaks TF out
Mhm.
and crashes her car into another dude's car and then drives away.
Yay!
And this
Really?
man does tell her she's a bad mom as well,
Yeah.
because nobody will stop calling her a bad mother.
I mean, yeah, it's probably a bad thing to do a hit
mean,
and run with a
yes,
child in your car.
absolutely. But she is haunted by a demon, so we can give her a little bit of a break.
I'm going to rag on this man a little bit because I feel like seeing a child in the car would be my indication to be like, okay,
Be nice.
let's let up a bit
Yeah.
because there is a young child in the back of this car and I don't want to yell at his mom in front of him.
Let's solve things a little bit more
Some
diplomatically.
people don't think that way about children.
That's true.
Some of them will not want to protect them from things, and I think this movie kind of advocates in a way to not shield everything from your children,
Mhm.
because if you do,
That is
Yeah.
you repress it.
Right.
But then also with
You
the
shouldn't yell.
making of the movie,
this is something that we were going to touch on.
yeah, they
Perfect time.
were very protective of the actor for Samuel, Noah Wiseman, as I read here. From what I read, the director, Jennifer Kent, wanted an older boy,
hmm
probably around 8 or 9, just because they would be more able to handle filming a horror movie.
Right.
But they ended up choosing Wiseman because he looked innocent. Whenever they were
Yeah.
trying to work with older boys, they were all very knowing
Yeah.
about it.
They were actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Samuel, he's just so innocent. He has these big ol' eyes that you just stare at and you're like, wow, you're so tiny and unknowing.
Yeah.
So when they were filming the movie, they had to be very careful about how much they told him what it was about.
Because it's a very, traumatizing movie for a child to be a part of.
Yeah, no, it's so realistic, and the funny thing is the actors' parents are both psychologists.
Work.
Huh.
So that's one thing they kind of attributed. They're he's so innocent because his parents knew how to how it would affect a kid to expose them to certain things at certain ages. So and this is probably why they didn't show the Babadook more, especially with Samuel,
Yeah.
to not scare him.
Yeah.
And so any scenes that Samuel is being yelled at, they do an adult stand-in.
Yeah. They
Mhm.
So
they never
that-
have a scene
Or-
where it's both of them in frame. Sam is being yelled, or
Mhm.
yeah, Samuel's being yelled at and Amelia's yelling. It's always cutting between the
Mhm.
two.
Which is extremely, conscientious of them to do because even
Better
if
than
it
most films.
even if it is acting, you don't want to expose a child to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for
that
some things that
young.
are being said.
so
go eat
many
shit.
movies,
Yeah.
and I think that directors are being called out for it more now and being praised for when they do a good job
Mhm.
at taking care of their actors.
Because you're still working with human beings.
Yeah,
but
ultimately.
some directors will treat their actors horribly.
Yeah.
It's a power thing.
Yeah, especially in horror, they'll justify it, be to get them into
to make it more realistic.
to make it more realistic, to have you feel more isolated, to have you feel more paranoid or anything
Mhm.
like that. But the care that they went to take care of this kid,
Mhm.
I think it's really commendable.
The
Absolutely.
the quote that I heard was to get the upset reaction shots out of him. What Jennifer Kent would tell Wiseman is to do my best impression. I'm gonna throw your Legos in the river.
I can imagine this little kid hearing that, be like,
No.
It's how if you tell a kid they're gonna delete their Minecraft account or something.
Yeah.
Dude,
You stole all their Robux or something.
literally.
Definitely, if this movie was made nowadays, the level that Amelia is emotionally neglectful, of course he would have an iPad. Of
Yes.
course.
Absolutely.
But I mean, they're not very well off, so maybe he wouldn't. But
Who knows?
I don't know. It's
school
so
school
many
given.
people have 'em.
Leapfrog?
But
Yeah.
he
Leapfrog.
is pretty much
That's so
using
old.
his magic and his videos. That's the same way.
Yeah, he's watching
much.
this one DVD on repeat
He
Mhm.
loves that DVD. It's all he has.
Very true.
All right. So now we kind of get into the real spooky stuff. This is when Amelia has another encounter with the Babadook, who freaks her out so thoroughly that she locks herself in a room. And then, from the fireplace of that room, where she is currently like kind of cowering in the corner of, a top hat drops down. And she is freaking TF out. She's crawling across the floor trying to get to the door. And that's when she truly lets it in.
So
So-
now she has absolutely toked up on some Babadook.
That Baba Juice. That's when it really has hit the fan.
She's a little freaked. So she's now like a shell of a person.
Yeah.
More than she was already.
Again, looks god awful.
She just keeps
Yeah.
managing to look worse.
Yeah, and
somehow.
she's being very aggressive with Sam.
Yeah.
And then eventually she is sitting at her armchair watching some godforsaken shows.
Really
Yeah.
weird.
That the
TV.
Babadook keeps appearing in.
Oh my
Yes.
god, no.
He's like flashing in.
He looks really good in this like TV setup, like in like the black and white.
Mhm. Because just like knowing a bit of trivia about this, these are pre-established films
Mhm.
that they kind of spliced him into, and he looks pretty seamless in
He
them.
does.
They based him off of a movie in the 20s, or some kind of film. It was called The Man in the Beaver Hat in London After Midnight, which is so wordy.
It's not a good
But
title.
His
That's
you
a
know,
Lana Del Rey album title.
I'm not entirely sure if they depict him in the like series of films that is being like flashed in Amelia's face, but it shows that he is very much like from that period, it seems.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, like he looks exactly like those like you said 1920s.
Yeah.
Films. He looks
Yeah.
so much
Ver-
like
It's
that.
like
Silent film.
20s animations, like
This is actually like part of the reason that we were a little confused on the timeline of this, because only very old programming airs, which I mean,
but it's always very late. So maybe it's
public access
reruns.
TV is not that bad.
I'm
I don't
sure
think-
like
maybe in Australia.
Who knows?
I'm sure it's also just like for like the movie effect
Yeah.
to have like relevant stuff on the TV that is
Mhm.
pertaining
The
to
Babadook has the remote.
Yeah.
He's
So-
got the-
He's like, we're gonna watch this. I made this little VHS for you,
Yeah.
Amelia.
I hope you like it.
Hope you like it.
So she is now flipping through the channels, and she lands on a news segment
Dude.
about
An American news segment, which is weird.
Yeah, for some reason. About a single mother snapping and strangling her son. And in the window of this news segment, she sees herself smiling.
Oh god.
And I think this is when the final act kicks off, because
Yep.
she's kind of like in this state between dreaming and reality.
She's all Babadooked out.
She's
right now.
Babadooked out on sedatives and grief. And she sees a vision of Sam going into the basement. So she follows after him. And who does she see
Oh my gosh, it's finally time for Oscar.
but her deceased husband, Oscar? And they hug, and they embrace, and she just immediately is a wreck
It's
upon seeing him.
It's also just like
Oh.
a breath of.
Maybe I shouldn't have said wreck.
No
Kind
way.
of comforted.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
like, but
I
she,
just got
she is
it.
like so consoled by his presence, like immediately. Like there
And-
is no like, how are you alive? Well, she says,
She's like, I
I
thought,
thought
you were
you died,
dead.
but like
Yeah.
still hugging
It's
this man.
not like, how can you be here? It's
You're
just
like,
like,
you are
I'm
not-
so
you are
happy
not real.
Mm-hmm.
that you are here. I thought that you were gone.
but
and
then
then-
Oscar says something a little weird.
He says, "We can be together. You just have to bring me the boy." The boy. The boy is actually something that I pointed out
No, that
while
was,
we were watching it,
that was so slay. to point
about-
that out.
how at the beginning of the film, when talking with the people at Sam's school,
The
when he was getting in
headmaster.
trouble, the headmaster at Sam's school, Amelia very specifically, pointedly said, "Do not call my son the boy."
Giving him
And-
a little bit more like
It's Samuel.
humanity.
Yeah.
He's a
Because
person.
nobody treats him like a person
Mhm.
in this.
And by this point in the film, all of that humanity and care for Sam has gone out the window because the voice gets very distorted, Oscar's voice. And I don't think she immediately is like, yeah, let's do it.
But she like takes a moment and she realizes like that he's also calling him the boy.
Yeah.
That's his son, even though he
Mhm.
never met him. Like that is his son, and like I think that doesn't she like kind of snap out of it when she
Yeah.
hears the boy.
She kind of, you
Yeah.
can kind of see the realization, like maybe this isn't
Like, why are you
real.
calling him the boy? That's
Yeah,
my
this isn't
son.
you.
That's your
Yeah.
son.
But by this point, she's kind of too far gone,
She's trapped.
where she is, I guess she's kind of now cognizant still in this chair. Sam
This
and
was all a dream.
yeah, Sam and
Basement.
Bugsy are upstairs, and rest in peace. Bugsy gets a little brave and goes downstairs, and Mama don't like that.
Yeah, because Amelia is like shaking in her chair right now. She
Yeah.
is scaring them very much, and Bugsy goes down there, barks at him, and I don't think Amelia takes that too well.
No, not particularly. So she lets him outside, and we never see him again. That's what happens.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can say
We
that.
we can do a little historical revisionism
yeah.
in this podcast.
We don't have to.
Yeah, the dog just runs off.
Yeah, he
Um,
just wanted a better life somewhere.
But
on a
if you don't
farm.
like when
He's on a
dogs
farm somewhere.
upstate, yeah,
Yeah, he went to a farm upstate.
and soon Sam might be
Yeah,
Sam
might be joining him, because now Sam is like scared shitless of his mother, and then you hear a knock at
Yeah.
the door.
after the deed is done with Bugsy.
Yeah.
So
After
you know.
Bugsy's been let out.
yeah, out the back door.
Out the-
Yeah.
She
and-
goes to the door.
He's fine.
She is obviously just committed a heinous act of letting a dog go, and
Yeah.
she opens the door. I think she's gonna lose it on whoever it is.
Me too.
It is Mrs. Roach, sweet
This-
old lady.
This was perhaps the most scared I was throughout this entire movie,
Yes.
because I was like, she is going to do something to Miss Roach, and I,
I thought Miss
love
Roach was
this
going
lady.
to die at every scene.
Literally,
Like, no.
get off screen, girl,
Yes,
please.
please. And sweet old Mrs. Roach, she's just like, I love you guys. You know, you guys are like my neighbors. You're basically my family.
Yeah,
I want to make sure you guys are okay.
like I heard some noises just from across the way. Like I just
Didn't
wanted to check.
Samuel call her?
yeah, but we
yes.
don't realize that until later, right?
No, because Amelia catches him on the phone.
This was like during
because she's cut
her.
the phone line by this point.
This was during her
she like
You're
gets a
right.
knife at some point. And is like going crazy.
her little
Right.
freak out moment.
That was a bit before, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a little bit earlier, but he tried to call Mrs. Roach to be like, "Hey, can you come stay with us, or can we come stay with you guys, like over
Mhm.
at your place?"
Because Sam was like, we need to get out of this house.
And
which is
Amelia's
smart.
like,
This is just
no.
before she goes to sleep in the sofa.
We
Yeah.
don't need any help. Like we're good. And she does another. Like, she did another freak out on Sam because
Yeah.
of that.
Mhm.
But Miss Roach came over because
Yeah.
phone
She's
call,
awesome.
I'm
After-
worried.
After, we keep going back and forgetting
I mean,
things.
no, that's
We're good. Prior to this, Amelia actually goes upstairs and tries to confront Sam and is like, Bugsy's really sick, so we need to get him. And Sam is like, girl, what? Like, I saw that. So, Sam gets the door breaking down on him by Amelia spider monkeying
Oh,
and
yeah.
She's
kicking
going
it.
monkey mode. On
She's
that
going
door.
monkey mode on that door. And then Sam, icon, legend, and star that he is, manages to slip past her and tucks himself in a corner away somewhere. And that's when the knock happens.
Yes.
That kind of very briefly snaps her out of it. And Mrs. Roach is being just so nice. God, I
Such
love
a
Mrs.
lovely
Roach.
Old lady, love her.
And it almost feels like maybe her name is related to like Amelia thinks she's kind of a nuisance, like because she keeps trying to help.
Yeah. She's a pest.
Yeah, but like she's the only one in her life with levity. Like she's
Mhm.
the only one helping her.
Like she's just so against accepting help from
Yes.
anyone and like admitting how much is wrong.
That's
Mhm.
why I thought, like, oh, Mrs. Roach is dead because she's
Yeah.
going to, like, try to, stop the help. 'Cause that's what grief makes you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe you just feel like you should be sad. But she doesn't,
Yeah.
which is
Thank God.
a relief for everybody, but it just heightens the stress because she's still killable.
She's killed
Mhm.
one thing so far.
No.
Yeah.
Oh right, I'm sorry. Cut that. She
She-
has
she- Let go one thing so
let
far.
Bugsy go to a farm upstate.
But Mrs. Roach goes home, safe and sound,
Thank
like we all
God.
want her to go.
She goes to the kitchen and is like, "Hey Sam,
Mm.
mommy's not well right now."
Yeah.
And she kneels down and she's like,
Mm.
"I'm gonna take you to see your dad."
Oh
Which
my
ooh
God.
chills, ooh chills.
And like Samuel might want to,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
he knows something is wrong because he knows my dad
He
dead.
knows that Bugsy
Yeah.
is missing at this time.
He sees the dead, the
Missing.
missing dog.
Cut.
And the essence of the missing dog is in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can really feel its absence.
The
And so
aftershocks.
Amelia kneels down to try to like really like get in on him,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and she is getting a little close to him.
Getting a little close to that neck.
Yeah.
And
Just like the
Samuel, like the Rambo he is,
The absolute legend that he is.
stabs his mom in the leg.
Hell
right in
yeah.
the thigh.
So awesome.
So
Probably-
she is bleeding profusely.
Like there's a lot of blood on her dress
It's
by the end of this movie.
awesome.
yeah.
And he like kicks off. Isn't it like a run through the house?
Yeah.
straight upstairs.
That
Is this whenever he is using all his weapons?
Yeah.
Yes, he pulls out the ball slingshot thing. He pulls out the dart launcher. It's not really doing anything
No.
until they
but-
run down to the basement.
where this is Chekhov's string, where Amelia runs down after him to, get that. And he pulls this cord that he said to trap monsters that she trips over, bonks her head, tumbles down the stairs, and then I think gets like a bat to the back of the head.
Yeah, this
like
is
it
where
doesn't take her out.
She gets knocked out.
So she awakens, tied to the floor. Like something in a lot of fairy tales. I think it happens in Gulliver's Travel. Yeah. And also during the chase sequence, she specifically references the Three Little Pigs, which is something that she read earlier. So
Mm.
she's kind of lost contact with reality, and as these stories and reality are kind of meshing into her, I like this movie a lot.
So good.
It's so clever.
She begins to get loose though,
Yes.
and she then grabs her.
This is when he gets strangled.
Yes.
Yep. She grabs her. She grabs Sam, and is absolutely going to town. on him.
Going to town on this boy.
She's
Like he is
Pissed.
unable to fight back.
Yeah, because he's a
'Cause
6-year-old.
He's a 6-year-old boy. And we were like, oh, poke her eyes out.
Literally.
it's his mom.
It's
so
his
like,
mom.
he just
He's
caresses her
6.
face.
Yeah.
Just-
he's trying to like, he's like, this is my mom. I just want you to be okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to protect you. I'm not gonna hurt you.
So he caresses Amelia's face, and that act of humanity is what finally snaps her out of this. And she's like, she drops him, falls to the floor, retches out this black substance.
She threw up.
She threw up.
Finally threw up.
She threw up. And
Honestly,
then,
I wish she threw up more.
honestly,
you said
kind
you
of-
wanted chunks. I was glad
You
it
said
wasn't.
you wanted
No,
chunks.
like it's like a little
This ain't the
puddle
chunky
of like
podcast.
black goo.
It was nasty coming out though.
I mean, it was nasty, but like
It's all over her dress,
more.
potentially.
It needs to
Your
be.
stomach isn't that big.
It has, but like
We gotta
the
rem-
Babadook is pretty big.
we gotta remember this
She's
is
got
The
only
a
whole
lot
thing
of-
wasn't in there.
this is only $2 million.
What?
This is only $2 million.
Oh no, it's totally
Yeah.
$2 million.
We don't-
Can't,
we don't
can't spill a little bit more black. Goo
we
on
don't
the
have
floor.
chunk money.
We got goo money. We don't got chunk money.
We don't got chunk money.
I have chunk money. I don't have $2 million. You could always make money for chunks.
I was gonna say you just get some like split pea soup in like
Literally.
a can, but
Put some like squid ink in it.
so
Boom.
she
Oatmeal.
is getting better.
Yeah. Samuel, this is the part I was mad at him about. He very so gently reminds his mom, you can't get rid of the Babadook, and gets yeeted up them steps by an
It's my cue.
literally.
He
Literally.
ascends.
Take me away, boys.
Australian gravity took him away.
So he
The
gets
gravity reversed as it does in the Upside Down.
he gets flung upstairs by this invisible force, thrown into a few walls, and Amelia, like finally having come to her senses, rushes to protect him. And then we get the big old confrontation scene,
The final
which
act.
I loved. I like the more I think about it, the more I like this scene, where an entire wall of the room draped in shadows. It
Yeah.
goes on
like a
forever.
Oh, yeah,
Void.
they're in their bed at this point,
Yes,
which they've spent
Yes.
a lot of the movie in.
which the bed
Yeah.
is shaking.
Yeah, it's everything is getting
Everything.
sucked up into the void
Mm-hmm.
on the other side.
So Amelia goes to confront it. Finally, for the first time in this entire film, she
Yes.
actually acknowledges that it exists. And who greets her but Oscar?
Hi, Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
Hey.
He
Hey.
doesn't stick around for long though.
Not particularly. So she is greeted by the final words that Oscar said to her before he died and is forced to relive this. We literally see his head get cut off.
Yeah.
Or at least part
oh
of
my
it.
god.
It
I
is
love
like
that.
an anime scene. Like his
Literally.
head gets like sliced clean.
When like two like is it samurai or just like swordsmen like
Yeah.
do like
Yeah.
a duel
Click.
and like go past each other
And then one
like
of
a
them.
second
Everything's
goes
fine.
by and then like one of them like splits in half.
So she is like on the floor, just really going through it.
Yeah.
Even more than she has.
Because we can only assume
previously.
that this is as brutal, if not more brutal, than
Than when it first happened.
what happened.
Yeah.
And then
Then the Babadook's true form
Yes.
starts to emerge,
a winged figure, which was depicted in the book,
which I loved.
But,
But
we
it was
don't
never
see its
shown.
face.
it was
Yeah.
kind of a Blair Witch thing.
Mhm.
I know I'm
We just see his wings.
It was never
The only
fully
one.
shown.
Yeah.
So she's now cradling Samuel, and
well, he's being
sa-
sucked in.
Oh yeah, he starts getting sucked in, and I think then she
She pulls
pulls
him
him
back.
out, and then is cradling him and says my favorite line in the movie: "If you touch my son again, I'll fucking kill you."
Yeah.
And finally,
his
she's a
ass.
good mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Babadook has only one goal, and it's to make good moms.
Yes.
Just
So
trying to help out.
Yeah.
she is in a
He's a housemaker.
screaming
He's-
match with this thing. She goes to town. I love it so very much.
Like a Nick Cage movie. Just
literally.
yelling at this guy.
She's
She
like letting
she has
out
had 7 years of bottled up emotions,
so much.
all in
And
this one
she's not-
scream.
Denying it. She's just saying, I know you're there. Don't.
Don't try it.
Probably the most that she's ever felt for her son.
It's
Hmm.
Like she
the
is
most effort
so
she's given in the entire movie.
protective of him and is like, you cannot take him away from me. I will fight for him. Which like
So
such great development for her.
now she has finally taken away the power from the Babadook.
Yay.
Yeah.
But as the adage goes,
You can't get rid of
you can't get rid of the Babadook. So the Babadook's hat, cloak, fingernails start floating out and then collapse onto the
it.
floor.
He's a little guy.
And then in her final act of acknowledging that this has happened, she lifts the hat, gets blinded by this light and a loud scream.
Yep.
And it's a POV shot of the Babadook running into the
He
basement.
just
Yep.
scampers down
He scampers
there.
down.
Literally.
And then cut to the future.
Cut to the future.
Yay.
A
And
bright
they
future.
are having a good time. Her hair's done very nice. Her makeup is like she looks
Birthday.
put together.
Yeah, she actually looks nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was
Sam
possible.
is as happy as ever. I mean, before the Babadook came around, like with his gadgets, and like she's actually showing him attention at this point.
They are
Oh, they found like a way for him to use his weapons in like a non-destructive way. They
Yeah.
got like a dartboard for him.
yeah.
And like I loved that so much.
Yeah.
Like not trying to like repress his interests anymore and like find healthy ways for
Yeah.
him to do it that is also
Mhm.
like not damaging to other people.
It was. I feel like we're at the point where we can kind of discuss this a little bit more. But like, this movie was really about like treating kids like people
yeah.
Mhm.
with like
Definitely.
behaviors and interests, and like you can't just push them aside, because obviously that is how you end up with kids that lash out and
Yeah.
kids that get kicked out of
Who
school.
can't process their emotions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who will
Summon the
talk about
Babadook.
anything to other people.
Exactly.
So I mean that part doesn't really change about him talking about anything, because
No.
we cut back to Amelia and Sam having a conversation with Warren and Prue, who are like,
CPS is back.
yeah, like, wow, you've really managed to get this together. Sam is going to a new school that Amelia's done a lot of research on. She thinks is going to be a great fit for him. And Sam brings up, like, yeah, my dad died the night I was born. And Amelia, for once, doesn't look embarrassed of him.
Yeah.
And she
She's-
tells Prue and Warren, like, yeah, the reason we haven't celebrated my son's birthday on the day is because that's the day my husband died.
And also, she says that Samuel is just like Oscar in the way that they always speak their mind.
Mm-hmm.
And, I love that. I love, like, accepting the similarities in them, like, because I think that that's probably one of the things that bothered her the most about raising Sam is, like,
I'm sure.
seeing her husband in him.
Yeah.
And, like, I just love, like, the
Well, it's
way...
just a reminder every day.
I
Yeah.
love the way that we only learned this thing about Oscar at the end of it.
Because
Yeah.
Oscar isn't a character in the story, but he is a force that you feel
He
throughout
is
all
there
of
the
it.
whole
Yeah.
time.
He is like a relative that you lost in the story.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful. I mean, you learn little bits of him, like he was a musician, and
You kind of feel like Sam in that aspect.
yeah,
Like you only have these artifacts of this person who used to be and who you know is very important to these people. You don't know him.
that's why I don't really understand how like people don't like Sam, because like you are Sam in this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
Because they're unempathetic.
yeah,
Because people
They
don't
suck.
like kids.
Sam does a sickle magic trick, which I still don't know how he did. Where did
Oh,
he get that dove?
That dove? Oh my!
Where'd
no,
he
that
get
had to
that?
be-
Yeah.
That had to be an editing cut.
Obviously.
He can't do
but
that.
no, I mean
Like-
it's like an actual magic trick, but like
Where'd he
But
get a
him-
I don't
bird?
know where he got.
Where'd he
he-
get a dove?
I think he's
He's-
been on Amazon a little too long.
He's 7. That's
He's just buying it for himself at
Like,
this point.
yeah,
well, that's the end of the internet.
Can you just get a dove off Amazon though?
Maybe.
I'm googling where to buy a dove.
So kind of into the final scene of this movie now.
yes,
Sam and Amelia are in the garden, where she has planted a black rose, presumably, in remembrance of the dog who ran away
yes.
and is
Yeah, he's-
not.
it's about mounded as
the
well.
ground.
Like there's definitely like a
They filled it with some dirt.
Yeah.
yeah. They got rooms for
Okay.
worms.
Well,
which
much-
is-
Much like Amelia, I think we need to acknowledge the death. Finally.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry,
What?
Bugsy.
Bugsy died?
so Oscar died. No.
No.
So yeah, they lose a pet, but they might.
They found each other.
Gain a mother.
They also might gain something else.
Gain a pet.
They
So.
Sam is collecting worms for some reason,
Mhm.
and
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
it's
used
a little weird. I mean, it's
used
a normal
to
thing for
collect
kids, but like his
slugs.
mom is like encouraging. It's like a bowl of.
It's a lot
worms.
of worms.
It's like a bonding activity.
There's like a lot of
Yeah.
different worms in there too.
So they bring these worms in, and it's a little weird because why would you bring worms inside unless you have like maybe they have a frog or something?
Got-
They got him a frog
They got a new
because
pet.
yeah,
Mhm.
because I mean Bugsy like he went upstate and everything, but
Yeah.
the basement door now has many locks on it, so
So
she
many.
is
It's like
undoing
at the top.
top,
Of it
yeah.
now.
so like nobody
And,
can get in that is Sam's height.
It is also worth noting that you might have been getting to this, but she specifically she tells Sam when he asks like, "Oh, can I see it?" She says, you'll see it when you're older.
Yep.
Which,
Yep.
in the grief metaphor, I really like
Yeah.
because Sam will only start to process all of these emotions and potentially go through all of this again when he's older.
Yeah, and you can only handle it when you're older,
Yeah.
which we'll see why when she opens the
Goes
basement
down
door
there
Mhm.
alone.
with her bowl of worms, and she kind of just places it next to the shadows.
Yeah.
And the
And
POV
then-
comes back.
Yeah, the Babadook POV comes back and literally like almost sends
The
her flying
POV.
backwards.
Yeah, like same way, like at like the confrontation.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
I mean, my heart dropped because I thought she was dead.
Yeah. But something that I really liked happened. She consoles it much like you would console a child.
Or yourself.
Or
if
yourself.
you're going through something like that.
Like, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Breathe. Calm down.
Yeah.
And she leaves the bowl of worms on the ground for it. And it retreats back into the corner, takes the bowl with it. And then I want to say that the last scene is Amelia hugging Sam.
Yeah, she goes back and they're gonna go celebrate his birthday, I think.
Yeah.
Big birthday celebration.
And that's the end of the movie.
Woo! The
It was-
Babadook.
A roller coaster that was only ups.
Truly.
And then it ended on like a higher plane.
Yeah.
Because I think there are few stories that end with the monster still alive that I am like, I feel pretty
Safe.
okay about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it felt like a resolution, but it felt so different from other movies.
Mhm.
Oh, so different. Like the Babadook is just like a little critter now.
Yeah.
He's just a little guy, just like Sam.
hmm
He just like lives in the basement
Yeah.
forever now, I guess.
Kind of with grief, when you look at it for long enough, it's kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
Not feeling grief,
Oh my god,
but
that's kind of brutal.
not
No,
feeling grief, but
like-
grief itself.
You grieve your dead
'Cause
husband? Pathetic.
Hold this
But
L.
because-
Loser.
It only has as much control of you as you let it have.
Oh, definitely,
Yes.
yeah.
and
and-
it's also like, why would she be able to kill it?
Yeah.
You
Can't.
can't get rid of it.
You can't get rid of the Babadook.
You can't get rid of the grief.
The
And-
same way that like Oscar like is obviously always gonna live with her, and because
Yeah.
Mhm.
with Samuel, like the grief of his loss is also gonna be there, but it'll become smaller.
Mhm.
Yep.
She can move on with it.
So you
It
have a
i-
mini Babadook.
And it is also worth
Little
noting
guy.
the specificity of it living in the basement, which is where she kept all of Oscar's things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did it look like a little bit more cleaned out?
Yeah.
Yep.
Whenever
Which isn't saying much, considering how bad
The
it looked in
Babadook's
the
very
beginning.
clean.
the Babadook likes to keep a minimalist
Yeah.
lifestyle.
He's not,
Really?
he's not a maximalist now.
Absolutely not.
So I have two insane theories.
Okay.
One is that her husband's spirit is the Babadook.
That's kind of mean.
It would be.
Do you think he hated that dog?
I think he did. No, I think it's like, like a
Stupid.
trapped, like tortured spirit kind of thing where like kind of unfinished business becomes evil. Like, I don't know. That's really putting it out there. But
I mean, I can see it like if he is like this spirit that stayed behind to watch over her, and she
Yeah.
sees, or if Oscar sees how Amelia is doing 7 years after his death, and she's still like
yeah,
rough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe in like some like weird twisted way. Like I would be like, you gotta get your shit together, girly. I'm gonna torment you a little bit, but it's for your own good.
yeah.
I think specifically with the Babadook itself. This is actually something that I've been kind of like mulling over within the story itself, not like within our reality, because we obviously kind of know the answer to that. Is the Babadook real, or is it a figment of Amelia's imagination?
I think the Babadook is in our hearts. No.
The real Babadook was the friends
friends
we
we
know.
know along the way.
I think the Babadook's real.
Yeah.
I would say that it is real within the fiction.
Yeah,
I mean-
like, well, I hope he's not really real.
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Just don't have grief. I
Don't
don't know.
grieve,
okay,
I guess.
yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, just make sure
I'm-
nobody
I'm
in your life
better.
passes away. Yeah, I think it would definitely. I mean, if he wasn't, it would really remove a lot of the gravity away from it.
Yeah.
I mean, except the fact that like she would still have done her actions.
Mm-hmm.
So my other theory was that the Babadook originally was at Mrs. Roach's house.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned before, and I mean, you can see by her, she's a Mrs. She had a husband. She does not have a husband in the story. We can only assume that he has passed, because she's much older. Maybe she experienced this grief. She dealt with it, and that's also maybe why the Babadook, when he was in her house, didn't attack her.
Yeah. He left her alone.
Yeah, because she had her shit figured out.
Yeah. Unlike a certain
Would that-
somebody.
Under that theory, do you think it would be Mrs. Roach
Yes.
that gave her the book? Do you think Mrs. Roach made the book?
I think Mrs.
Or
I
what
would like to
what
think
if
so.
Third
No.
option,
No, I'm a Mrs. Roach defender.
Mr. Roach is the Babadook.
Bugsy is the Babadook. We'll start with B. Think about it.
But he's a bug.
B.
I mean, wouldn't Mrs. Roach marry a roach?
I don't think that's the truth.
The Babadook's last name. What's the Babadook's last name?
Babadook Roach.
I mean, it is Mr. Babadook.
No, it's Babadook.
Mr. Babadook Roach.
Baba. Yeah, that's kind of a. I mean, there's no way that like this has been explained at all by any like.
No, I'm just
This is
curious.
fun speculation.
Like,
Yeah.
If
Getting a little silly goofy.
somehow like I feel like the most plausible character motivation would be like maybe Mrs. Roach was going through it.
Yeah.
And she got the book and she
dealt with it.
dealt with it in like some like strange twisted old lady way. She gave them the book.
Yeah.
Strange,
kind of pass
twisted
it on.
old
Or maybe it just
lady
found its
way.
way over there because
Yeah,
it's like it was
did
in her
just-
house.
It was just on the shelf of
Yeah.
books.
Maybe it was in her basement. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe she's been feeding it. This is so reminiscent of stories that like the monster's still there and they have to keep it. They have to,
Take care of it.
take care of it. But it is actually, usually those stories give me like the heebie-jeebies at the end. But like this, it felt good.
Mm-hmm. This is, I think, a good time to briefly mention. Literally, I have a journal where I have a page titled Podcast Notes where I have two things written down. One, shitty-looking food, which we have already discussed.
It's also
And
gross.
two, monster, which, without the context, sounds really stupid.
It was really funny when all you had written down
was
notes.
Monster. Monster is Jennifer Kent's short film that she actually made and has described since as the Baby Babadook.
Baby Babadook is. I like to assume that's what's in the basement now. That's the Baby Babadook.
That's the Baby Dook.
The Baby Dook.
Oh, Bebe Dook. So I watched Monster in preparation for this, and it is like kind of fascinating how similar they are, but also how they differ. Because this was obviously made on a significantly lower budget. And the kind of structure of it was very similar. Like, it first starts tormenting the son. The son is also named Samuel. And is also...
Wow.
Samuels cannot catch a break.
I'm saying.
Just don't name your son Sam.
And, who is kind of tormented by this monster first. The monster is a doll in this rather than a storybook. And the mom, she's not named, but I'll just call her Proto-Amelia. Proto-Amelia is like, no, it's not real. And then she starts experiencing things too. And then the monster comes after Samuel. And Proto-Amelia does something quite similar to what happened in the Babadook, perhaps a little less vulgar. It scolds it like it was an unruly child.
Mhm.
And is like, you are going to go back into that basement. So it scampers back down, and then it cuts to them later and she fixes it a glass of milk.
Aw.
And then that's the end of the short, which is kind of just the Babadook.
It's like the bare bones version without
Yeah.
the whole grief aspect.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like I feel like that one is like it sounds more like a mother kind of gaining control of like her motherhood. If she's like wins by scolding it instead of like winning
Yeah.
by protecting her child.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's so fun.
Yeah.
Really
Apparently,
happy.
this movie actually did stir up a decent bit of controversy from what
Huh.
I've read about mothers saying Amelia would never act like that. But kind
Aw.
of an equal amount of single mothers were like, you showed what it is. It's not pretty. Because sometimes, like, you kind of resent your kids.
Definitely.
And obviously, it's one thing to feel that, and it's another thing to act on it.
Yeah.
But I feel like, believe it or not, I cannot speak to motherhood. I guess kind of having gone through the movie, gone through our thoughts on the various aspects of it, going through a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, is there anything else that we would like to say about this movie?
Since you brought up like that single mothers in real life, like we're talking about how relatable it is.
Mhm.
I feel like it's kind of like a cathartic movie in that way to like, and this is gonna sound horrible, but like you see this mother doing the things that potentially you've thought about doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we've all thought about just like losing our shit on someone. Just
Yeah.
That's what the
Yeah.
horror genre is for.
yeah.
It's about
But like
seeing the things that you
you
sometimes think about but
It's
don't
your-
want to do.
You know,
but you see the
the
horror
bad
in
human
it.
desires.
Yeah.
You see
You
like
realized.
how horrible it is that it has gotten to this point for her.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure most
Mhm.
of us would never, if we were single parents, scream at our child like this.
Yeah.
But like, so like, I feel like it really shows like, one, you can not get over it, but you can work through it. You can move past it, and you don't have to hurt the people in your life, and you can get better.
Mm-hmm.
And also like, don't put it all in because you're gonna hurt people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
It
Yeah.
is kind of a cautionary tale in that
Yeah.
aspect.
It really is.
Like, my final thoughts are I really liked this movie.
I really like
thought-
this movie
I
too.
thought the relationships were so good, and
And-
I love the development of Amelia and Samuel through it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was so fun to watch them, like,
And-
be happy at the end.
It was cathartic, but it was still like a horror ending. It was such a good time. I did have an idea for how we end each of these.
Okay.
We're Cinemacabre, right?
Yes.
Cinemacabre?
What?
Kernels. We should
Lit-
rate this by number of popcorn kernels that we thought it was out of 10.
I was gonna say skeletons.
Skeletons?
Skeleton kernels.
You can, yeah. They're like dead
Skeletons who
they're
have
like
served
dead
in the
cobs
military.
of corn.
I think this popped 8 kernels out of 10 kernels.
I would
for
say
me.
8 kernels is a good
Yes.
metric. Why do we only have 10 kernels?
Just because the classic.
We are college
Yeah,
students and we are
10-point
working
scale.
off of a college budget, so we can only afford
Yeah.
10 kernels for each of us.
Yeah, I mean, how many kernels are like in a normal bag? I don't want to be
Probably
like,
a lot.
I think that this should have 58 out of 72 kernels.
I would say, given it a solid, I would say probably about an 8.5.
And I would recommend people
would
watch
also-
it.
I would highly recommend
Absolutely.
people watch it. Sleep tight, everyone.
Good night. Thank you for watching.
Intro and outro music for this episode is credited to Bashkir Horror Reedition 2014 by Valeria and the Greedies and is licensed under Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike license.